All right. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here today. We are talking today about maximizing your CougsFirst membership. And honestly, I'm going to do this a little bit like a choose your own adventure because it depends on who's in my audience on how we will go through this. So, first, I want to know from the audience, is your business that you are with, are you currently a CougsFirst member? You're currently a CougsFirst member. Awesome. Yes, yes. Okay. So how about, is anyone not a CougsFirst member? Not CougsFirst members. No. See, do you see the sad face? We got to get that fixed. And then maybe you might not even know. You might work for a company that might be a CougsFirst member, but you're not sure. Okay, good to know we have CougsFirst members in here. I will make sure that I help share the information that you want to learn. So I also want to know what brought you to the session today. Were you here because you want to maximize the options with your CougsFirst membership? Is that one? Raise your hand, yes. Okay. Find out what CougsFirst membership options would be best for you. Is that a reason you were here? Okay. How about learning about how membership is just the beginning of many options? It's just the first step, okay? And then how about you just are here because you support all things Coug? Everyone? Yes, that's what I thought. Okay. All right. So which out of the engagement options that we have, you may not even know what they all are, I guess. But if you do know what they are, I want to know which ones of these you think are most important for your business. So first, who feels like the CougsFirst Business Directory is really important for their membership? The directory. CBD. Oh, it used to be called the CBD, so some of you may be familiar with that term. It is now the CougsFirst Business Directory. We changed that. Second, how about the CougsFirst show? What's happening today? Is that a reason why you guys are a CougsFirst member? Maybe? Okay. How about the after hours networking events? Has anyone been coming to those? Maybe not. Those are things that are great opportunities. And then we have a podcast. Have any of you listened to the podcast? No? Okay. How about being on social media? We do a whole lot of great email marketing, social media. Is that what's important for your business for CougsFirst? Okay. And then the last one I have on here, these are just a few of many different options, but how about an event sponsorship? Like today, we have a variety of different sponsors. USI is sponsoring our business education, and this is the beginning of our business education sessions. So that would be another valuable piece of a membership. So to talk to you a little bit about where CougsFirst is right now, it might be different it depends on what you know of CougsFirst and how long CougsFirst has been around. It's actually been about 10 years now that CougsFirst has existed, but it's been run by volunteers. Just a little over a year ago, CougsFirst hired an executive director and then hired me as the executive assistant, membership, special events, things like that, and then hired Carissa, who's here in the audience. You can wave. There's Carissa. She just started 2-3 months ago in our marketing. And so now we have 3 full-time people working every day, all things Coug, to be able to build out CougsFirst. So it's grown quite a bit. Our member, just in the last year, like this slide says, 97% higher business members. We have a lot higher annual email reach. Like I said, the 3 full-time staff. We're doing at least one event a month where it used to just kind of be the show here or in Spokane. So now we're trying to do one a month to give networking opportunities for CougsFirst year-round. Our social and media engagement, thanks to Carissa, is up, skyrocketing, almost 100% there. We've also really focused on reaching out to students. We want to emphasize the hiring aspect of CougsFirst. So it's where we used to be thinking CougsFirst for products and services. Now we're thinking for products, services, and hiring. We want everyone to think about hiring Cougs when they have job openings because we have some excellent students who are getting a great education at one of our many campuses who are going to be prepared to come and work hard for your company. We've had over 2,500 event attendees this year, and so huge social media impressions. We're in the millions now, so this is really amazing. And then podcast episodes, like I asked earlier if anyone had listened to our podcast. If you have not, I highly recommend that. There's some really entertaining stories told on the podcast. So you can find that on your Apple Store or anywhere, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast episodes. Also, just a few little stats about Washington State University alumni in general, just to think about how large our CougsFirst audience is. In the state of Washington, we have over 153,000 alumni. Worldwide, it's 240,000, but we really do most of our work here in Washington State, just because that's where our majority of our audience is, right? Okay, so if we're going to jump into membership, at CougsFirst we have 2 different membership options, and they're really basic get-in-the-door options. Just get your name out there and get your name on our radar so that we can start engaging with you and you can start engaging with us. So the Gray membership, and these are annual memberships, Gray membership is $100 a year, and the Crimson membership is $500 a year, where there's just a few more benefits. If you see here, oh, so right behind me, you probably can't even see. So with the Gray membership, you get the CougsFirst Business Directory listing, and then we do an intro newsletter to the audience, and then you can also get priority referrals to requests. So once you jump up to the Crimson level at $500 a year, you get to list exclusive offers on the profile. You can list multiple business locations. You can put the map on there. You can list jobs. You get your logo on our homepage that rotates through. And then we do a company listing in a themed newsletter. I think it's once a year. So there's quite a good jump of advertising that you can get with the $500 membership. It's really pretty worthwhile. I know even on this first one up here, the intro newsletter, that our audience there is almost 16,000 people. So for $100, an ad essentially listed out to 16,000 people is a pretty good value. So I encourage any business that's affiliated with Cougs and loves the Cougs that they join the membership at least at that level. And then from here, we really just grow and expand to different options that are customized. So also I wanted to point out, if you wanted to join the network today or upgrade from from Gray to Crimson, you can do that today, and we are giving a 20% discount. So hi there, giving a 20% discount. So if anyone wants to do that, go ahead and come talk to me afterwards, and we can make sure that we get you upgraded. We don't have to do the work today, but we'll just talk about it. I can give you a call this next week if you want to do that. All right, so then if you jump, this is that same page, but this shows kind of our third option of a custom lead sponsorship. Now it says $2,500 plus. It really is anything more than $500. We customize everything. I feel like, isn't that like an advertisement for insurance? Customize your whatever. So now I'm stealing somebody else's ad campaign. But for the custom lead sponsorship, we provide, essentially it has to do with the second option or third option of priority referrals to requests. If we know that your business needs to connect specifically with another type of a business, let's say you are a realtor and you want to find the best company to do the mortgage work for you, have a partner business, then we can make sure that we connect the two of you to sponsor an event, or we send out advertising that helps promote both of your businesses in a collaborative way. So we can customize anything. And anytime we do a custom lead sponsorship, again, it can start really more at like $600. We give you a Gray or a Crimson membership, up to you. And then we just add into the custom piece the needs that you would have for your business there. So moving on to some different samples. So like I said, with the custom lead sponsorship, a lot of those options that are over here, I made them bigger on the next slide so you can actually see them. So like I said, we have our after hours networking events. Those are once a month, and we have a sponsor and a host for those. So if you have a business where we could host your event there, we've had it at Marco Polo Bar and Grill. We've had it at Pop Culture Champagne Bar. We've done a Flat Stick Pub event. We even did Flying Squirrel, which is a trampoline park in Spokane. So if you have That was a family fun night. It doesn't have to be somewhere where alcohol is served. We can do a variety of things to host an event. And then we also have a sponsor for that event to pay for like food or beverage to help draw people into the event. So we could do a custom package for a networking, after hours networking event. Thought leadership is something like today and right now. This, like I said, USI is sponsoring our business education sessions today. And so if there's something you wanted to do virtually or at one of our shows, maybe before or after one of our after hours networking events, we can custom build something there where you can focus your business and maybe a theme that is related to your business that would be important to your audience, and we could custom package that. We also do a lot of different social media posts that you could add in. They could be educational, it could be advertising your deals. We also love to get testimonials from your business to share with our audience, and then that builds credibility for your company, and then builds your network that way. We can do a custom newsletter. I have some examples of these that I'll show you too. You can get your logo industry category page on the directory. And again, like I said earlier, you can upload jobs and you get a Crimson membership. So those are a lot of the extra benefits that you can get on the custom packages. So like I said, here's some examples. And this one is specifically the social media side, or no, excuse me, the after hours. Like I said, here's our trampoline park. They had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Here I am. We were bouncing on all the pink socks were the people jumping on. And then this was our event. Oh, that's right. We did at Pike Brewing, which we're going to be doing another event at Pike Brewing on May 22nd. That's just a little week and 10 days away, I guess. So you can come join that event, Women in Beer. We're raising money for a scholarship at Washington State University for women who are studying fermentation sciences. So you can join us back and have fun just like this. That's Pike Brewing. And then the Cougar Collective was our sponsor there. Here, the Believe in Me Foundation, that's what I wanted to point out, is that the Believe in Me Foundation was our sponsor for this event. The Believe in Me Foundation raises money for children in need, and so it was very suitable to have a children-based organization as the sponsor at an event where children could be. So again, that's where we build in the custom lead options for you. FSD Wines is a Coug-owned winery, and we had an event there, and I don't remember who the sponsor was for that one. And then this one was our Marco Polo event, where Dan Blau Real Estate was our sponsor. So he came to talk to his audience of people about real estate options through his company. And we had a lot of fun. Here's Spider Coug. I don't know if anyone knows who Spider Coug is, but he shows up out of the blue in his Spider Coug outfit. So keep your eye out for him. He might show up tonight. We might get lucky. So basically what I wanted to say about the custom packages that we do, it's really about the relationship. We want to make sure that not only we're connecting with you and your business, but that we can connect you to the businesses that will support you and your needs. So that's why we don't just blanket fill out, this is what you get for that membership, because we want to build it out to what your needs specifically are. So these are examples of our lead sponsors this year, and so we have custom packages with all of these different companies. You will see, I think all of these will be downstairs, or not, yes, down one floor. So at 4 o'clock today when we do the show, it starts at 4 and it's one floor down. We're on the 3rd floor. 2nd floor is where the show is. 1st floor is where registration is, where you all probably have been. But these are all our lead sponsors for this particular event today. And so we all have varied packages on what their needs are and how they want to be promoted. And so you, as being visitors here, take note of who those lead sponsors are. They are the reason we are able to host this event. And if you can give your business to these companies, that's what we're here for, is connecting Cougs with Coug businesses. So I would hope that you can find a need to patronize some of these businesses. All right, so then back to the CougsFirst directory. This is with a gray membership. Everybody who joins CougsFirst gets to be in the directory, and it's on our website. And you get to search from A to Z, and then we group them in different segments. So there's accounting, tax services, all the way down to Z. I don't know if there's any Z named directories, but it starts here, and it's an easy search. You can either do by state or city even. So if you're looking, because we do have things across the nation, most of our businesses are in Washington, but they are across the nation, so you could look up. Literally, we just got a new member. Oh, I think she maybe hasn't signed up yet, but she's got an Airbnb in Alaska. So if anyone is going to Alaska and wants to get an Airbnb, we know a Coug in Alaska who you can get your Airbnb from. So you can come here and you could look up Alaska and you would find her. I unfortunately wouldn't be able to do that because she hasn't signed up yet, but she's going to. So like I said, so you can search here. This is the basic listing at the $100 level. This is our roofing company that is up in Burlington, Essery Roofing and Siding. They have a gray membership, and this is the gray membership level. So when you search, you could search for roofing, you could search for Essery, you could search Burlington, and you will find their information, contact on our website and our directory. So that's at our gray membership level. I'll jump into the member hub for, ooh, that's really big on that screen. So also with your membership, we get access to the membership hub. And this is kind of the backside where you, as the company, you get to be able to set up your information and share. We give you a lot of instructions on how to do things, but I'm also always very happy to just do a phone call and talk with you about the options in the member hub. Like every system, I know you all work with different kinds of computer systems, and everything has little quirks, right? Well, the one we have, it has its little quirks too. So I'm happy to help work around those with you. But if you head to the member hub, you'll get to be able to log in, and you get to have control over all of the information in your hub. So you get to go into the info, your billing info. You can set up auto pay for your membership. You can set up the directory listing. Really is the most important one, which I think I have another slide to go into. You can always look at what our events are doing. We don't have any subscriptions set up yet. We are just building this out. We started using Growth Zone last fall, so we will just be building this further as time goes on. And then you can always jump to the CougsFirst business directory and see all the member businesses through there. So you can search the open jobs that different businesses in the CougsFirst network have posted to our site. And like I said, it's when you get into the member hub, it's really just a one-time setup. So it feels like as a brand new member, you might feel like you have a lot of different things to get set up. I'm happy to be there and handhold you as much as you'd like to be able to do that. But the most important things when you're getting in there is to set up a category so people can search your category of the business that you work in. The main contact at your business so that people can contact you easily. And then obviously getting your website linked so then they can launch off to your website and look at your products, services, things like that. And then auto pay, so you don't have to think about that again next year once your membership comes due. So one of the great options inside that member hub is you can email different CougsFirst members. And I think it comes along with some security or authority because your messages at the top, it says a visitor to the directory has sent you a message. It's a fellow Coug business. And I think that's super important. Fellow Coug business owner. So I think that's going to be a little more eye-catching in an email message than just an email from Joe at Jones Soda. Maybe when it says it's a fellow Coug business owner, then you know you already have this connection of CougsFirst, which is the whole reason we do this network, is to connect Cougs. So when you see that message and you know that it's coming from a fellow Coug, you're going to be more likely to open it and check it out and see what information they're looking for. So this is one person who has a photo agency in Capitol Hill and wanted to get some free content to local businesses for advertising and things. So this is just a networking opportunity for all of our businesses to jump into. So I was telling you a little bit about the gray membership and how that looks like in your listing. We also have that crimson membership level, which is a $500 a year. And Kelsey Marie, who is here, Kelsey Knutson, she will be here. I think I already saw her today. She's I don't think she has a booth tonight, but she's on our thought leadership stage. She will be a host on our stage, and she hosts our podcast. So she's well connected through the CougsFirst family, but this is her Crimson membership page on the inside, on the info hub, where she gets to add in all of her information. So she got to build it out with a full description. She got to add videos and photos. That's the options you get extra at the Crimson membership level. And then once you go to the directory, if someone searches you, this is what it will look like. Versus, do you remember the SRE roofing that I had down here? Where it's a listing and it had their contact information, but at a $500 level, you can build it out to be a lot more information. So she has some really compelling video information about her consulting company, and really did a great job of building out the content, and is really showing our Coug network that she's a valuable resource for them. All right, so then like I said, we do a lot of different social media options. It's pretty well branded, right? You can tell that that's CougsFirst everywhere you look. We have, let's see if I can even, so LinkedIn right here in the middle. So we'll have upcoming events, options. There's the power lunch that literally probably is just getting over. I don't know if a few of you just came in from the power lunch. But we can promote activities here. We also allow companies to promote jobs on our CougsFirst LinkedIn. We have our Instagram. And so if you notice, there's some that are branded. Down here is Mariah Mackey. Up there is Cody Beebe with the Pullman sign and the wheat field in the background. That's our podcast branding. So if you see one of those, you know it's a podcast episode, and you could click on that to be able to listen to our podcast. And then this one is Twitter over here, and we have a variety of things coming through. I don't know if any of you got to see the videos. This is RJ Stone. He's one of the football players. Did anyone see that video? It's pretty entertaining. These guys are hilarious. So if you missed it, you should go see those. But we bring in a lot of our partner businesses promoting on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and this one's Facebook. So here we go, Dash Dog. Has anyone seen Dash Dog today yet? Yes, Dash is here. So make sure you go say hello to Dash. All right, so like I said earlier, on those custom packages, we have a variety of marketing exposure options. This one in the middle is our newsletter, where I said at the $100 level, you get listed in this newsletter. It goes out to 16,000 people, I believe. So for $100, you get 16,000 views. We have really good response rates to our emails, actually. So you are listed on an email that goes out to a whole lot of Cougs who really want to learn about Coug businesses. And so every month we do this and introduce our new members. I don't know, do we do the returning members, renewing members, or have we not built that in yet? It's still pretty new. Yeah, so we might be doing the renewals so that when you renew each year, you also get your promotion in there. And again, we keep our lead sponsors off to the side. So that's a part of their package. If you go to our events page on our website, CougsFirst Events, we are always showing what's coming up next. So obviously here's today. Ta-da! Next one, just so you guys know, if anyone's from the Ridgefield, but Vancouver, Washington area, we're going to be hosting our first after hours down south. We've done most of them kind of in the Seattle area, two in Spokane. But we're looking to connect with Cougs all across the state, even outside of the state. If we need to go find a group of Cougs for an after-hours event, we'll do that. Just let us know if you have a company where you could host or sponsor that event. So that's coming up next, and it just is constantly renewing with the different events that we have. And then over here, again, it's the podcast listing. You can just go to our website, and you can see the list of all of our podcasts. Like I said, we have 24, I think, at least, that we've done now. A wide variety of different audiences of different things for Cougs to learn about. Whoops. All right, so like I said, there's a lot of exciting things that are coming soon. May 22nd, I mentioned that earlier, Pike Brewing and CougsFirst Women in Beer event. So that's down at Pike Brewing at Pike Street Market on May 22nd. June 1st is Taps Beer Reserve, which is a Coug-owned beer, it's a brewery, I believe, in Ridgefield. And then on August 8th, we will be at the Tacoma Rainiers baseball game. And we will have open registration for these events on our website throughout the next month or two. And then we hope to get down to Sela, Yakima area, for our first after hours down in that area at Outskirts Brewing on September 6th. October through December, we have not determined those spaces yet, so if you have your company and you're interested in doing those after hours, we've had up to 75 people register for each of those events and show up and network. It's been a really great opportunity to get Cougs together. So if you're interested in one of those time slots, we are looking for our October and December options. We are going to skip November because on November 1st, breaking news is our Spokane show. That's just being announced. So please, if you plan to attend our next show and can be in the Spokane area, that will be on November 1st. So, and then like I had mentioned earlier, the connecting virtually with our podcast, we have an app. I think you all learned today on the back of your badge. You can scan on the back and you can download our app to get the show brochure and everything you need for today. We have our LinkedIn group like I showed you earlier, as well as our business education and thought leadership options. This is what we consider the business education, having classes like this where we can talk to you about CougsFirst or let our business partners talk to you about their businesses. And then thought leadership, please enjoy that tonight at between 4 and 7 p.m. At the show just downstairs on the second floor. So other than that, I didn't really have any other planned information. I wanted to be able to give some time for questions. So does anyone have any questions about CougsFirst membership or anything CougsFirst? Yes. Yes, I would say, well, you're definitely invited to come to any of the events for free. I would not recommend a student become a member because the members are generally a business versus a person. So yes, as soon as you're affiliated with a business, then you should convince that business to join the membership. But I shouldn't say all our events, almost all of our events are free to attend, and we do hope to have students come. People who are in between jobs and aren't working with a company, or even if they work with a company, say Google, that can't say they're a Coug-owned business because they're giant, We want to be able to have any Cougs that work in those businesses still come to our events, especially those after hours. Those have been a really good option for students and other people who want to just network to come to those kinds of events. That's a very good question. Yeah, so CougsFirst is not directly affiliated with the Alumni Association. A lot of alumni associations for different universities have something like CougsFirst, but it's a part of the university. What CougsFirst was started as just a decade ago, they started as a nonprofit organization of alumni members who wanted to build a network. And so they talked to the university, to the Alumni Association, and said, hey, should we work together? And the Alumni Association at that point just couldn't manage building in that kind of a network for them. So we said, well, we'll just do it on our own. And so this group of alumni worked together and started this network. It's now officially a 501c6. And like I said, in the last year, we now have 3 full-time employees. So I think we are the first that we know of in the nation where there's an actual business network for a university that's not connected to the university. So we are pretty unique, and it's an excellent option. And you guys know the Coug Nation. It's so passionate. This is the best place for something like this to start. And it's been, again, run by volunteers for almost a decade, and it's really strong. So something this strong, just run by volunteers, we're skyrocketing it now with full-time employees who are putting a lot of time and effort to building this to be even better. So just make sure you let us know what you're looking for, whether you're a student and want to know what you can come to, whether you're a business and you need to connect with other businesses. We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us anytime. And our website, I don't have that on this slide, but our website is cougsfirst.org. You can find our contact information and talk to us anytime about options that you wanted to learn about. So is there any other questions? No? Everybody got what they needed? You sure? No burning questions about, okay. Well, right after this, actually, you could jump over. If you wanted to go out that door, there's a presentation starting now. If you're interested in the WSU ASCC, Academic Success and Career Center, they're doing a presentation right now on the resources available for career services at WSU. So that's a great one there. And then at 2 o'clock, right here again, our board member and former Coug football player, Jed Collins, will be here to talk about, what's the title? Talking money. We're talking money. So that will be an excellent opportunity for you guys to come for that one too. Okay? Anything else? Good? Well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time.
Ready to rock and roll. Good afternoon, one and all, and go Cougs, as we are all united under our CougsFirst banner. First off, want to say thank you and appreciate your time, your commitment, and really the interest in this discussion, whether we're going to be discussing how to handle that first paycheck all the way up through the complexities, the life questions. This is a topic that is at the moment beginning to kind of spread through the nation, and it is one that our sponsors, USI, CougsFirst, and my fellow panelists, the Coug experts, are here to discuss. So I thought we'd begin by having a simple introduction. Ruth, why don't you kick us off and just who you are, where you're from, and why this is a subject you're interested in.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ruth Kaneko. I'm one of the financial educators at BECU. Been in the role for about 14 years now. Get to do what I love to do, and that's teach financial education. Talk about personal finances with high school students, college students, nonprofits, businesses, and it's just so needed, right? Especially the younger groups as well. So that's one of my passions, is to help people get kind of from A to B and how to kind of figure it all out in the meantime. So that is me.
And as we are here representing CougsFirst, give us 30 seconds on BECU and why this is a passion of theirs.
So BECU, of course, BECU is your friendly neighborhood credit union. One of their number one, I would say, goals is financial education to our members, to the communities. We provide so much financial education, events that you can go to learn about things like budgeting, credit, how to manage your debt load, right? All the topics that we so need in life, we do that on a daily, monthly basis. So BECU is very passionate about financial education in the communities.
Pass the torch.
Yeah, perfect. I'm Lori Harrison. My company is Cascade Guided Wealth. We are financial advisors. This is a topic that we're super passionate about. I grew up financially insecure and felt like I didn't really have the tools and knowledge necessary to really help myself out of that situation. And our industry, I think, has kind of a stigma around it that you have to have a certain net worth to be able to gain entry to even knowing some of these things. So knowledge is power, and being able to utilize these strategies no matter what level of career phase or wealth you're at, I think is really impactful.
And being a young female owner, boss in an industry that has not been dominated by women, when did you realize this is an area I can do, and what kind of gave you the confidence to pursue stepping into the first chair?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, just on this education topic, there's like a niche you can carve out in this industry by really leveling with the client and not just pitching product and talking over their head. So that's what we're trying to do, really connect with our clients and make sure that they understand what we do, why we do for them, and make sure that they're comfortable with all of the strategies we implement. And I think there's a good trend in our industry towards that, towards more planning and less just like pitching, stock and product at you. So it's it's going in an encouraging direction.
Absolutely. Mr. Porter.
My name's Greg Porter. I'm a managing director at CBiz Burnson Porter, CPA firm, just right down the street. I just walked here. I went to WSU 1978 to 82. Got one of my teammates right there, Paul Sorensen.
He was really good.
Oh yeah. Well,
Who had 4 minutes for Paul to say something?
well, you went on to play professional football. You went on to play professional football. Let's say I didn't go on to play professional football.
You went on to start a business, which our backs and brains would both switch with that.
Well, I do a lot of work with the IRS, so there's a lot of heavy hitting that goes on there. But been doing this ever since got out of school, and got my undergraduate degree in accounting at Wazoo, my master's degree in business at Wazoo as well, and then picked up a master's degree in tax later on. And this is a passionate, anything that has to do with finance, money, helping people manage their wealth, grow their wealth, plan for the future, plan for their families. That's always a topic that is very near and dear to me and our clients. So,
And as you see that transition, you became an expert, a master's in accounting. Do you see a parallel to financial literacy and personal finance? So many people see accounting as more the business language, personal finance more the kind of money family language. Where do you see the crossover, or are they one and the same?
I think they are one and the same. I wrote a paper in graduate school. It was a graduate manuscript contest, and it was talking about legislation and how it impacts management decisions. And I had a really good paper and won third place nationally because I took that and turned it and said, I'm going to write about management decisions that are made within the family. And everybody else wrote about businesses, and I wrote about families and IRAs and decisions, financial decisions that are made at the family level. And that perked a lot of interest. So the point is a lot of those same principles, a lot of those same techniques that you would use to run a successful business, you can take home and apply to yourself as well and your family.
I obviously, in my research, have read that article. If you guys need it, I can forward it along. But as we look at this, we want to begin this conversation. Where do we begin at the base level? Everybody who graduates high school has some things in common, but one thing for sure is that they'll all receive a paycheck. Doesn't matter what career, astronaut to zoologist, you are going to have a paycheck come into your life. Ruth, you talk to students, young professionals on a daily basis. Where does the conversation begin? How do you, this is a foreign language for so many, how do you broach this topic?
Yeah, so one of the things we talk about, so I work with high school students, also a lot of college students, and especially in college, one of the biggest things we talk about is feast or famine. I'm talking about when you're in college and you get the money up front during the semester. All of you are nodding your heads, good. You get that money and all of a sudden you breeze through it, and you have no money until the last 2 weeks before you get any more money, so you add more water to that milk to make it stretch. You do the things you need to do. So one of the things we talk about when you finally, you graduate college, or maybe in college you get that job and you get your first paycheck. First of all, understanding all the taxes that are coming out of it, and then also understanding just the budgeting aspect of what do you do with this new paycheck that you're getting, right? Your expenses in college may look completely different from your expenses after college. Everybody know in that world, right? So really talking with the kids and the students about, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? And the first thing we always encourage the students to do as well is to always pay yourself first. Everybody has a financial goal, right? I went to this high school once, and this kid, he raises his hand, and he goes, my 2-year financial goal is to get a girlfriend. And I said, I don't know if that's a financial goal. And he said, you want to bet? He goes, you got to pay for the dates, you got to pay for the gas to get to the dates. And so we went back and
Smart
forth,
man.
right?
Smart young man.
Saw this guy a couple years later, and I said, how'd that work out for you? And he goes, not bad, right? Not bad. Just going back to everybody has a financial goal, but really when you're looking at your finances, you get that first paycheck, set aside money up front. Make savings a priority, because I'm sure a lot of times we all go back and said, man, I wish I could have told myself to put more money into savings, to save for those goals. So making savings a priority, making automatic transfers, a priority, so that you're not thinking after you pay your bills about savings, because does savings happen after we pay our bills? No, right? It go wherever it wants to. So really focusing on that, figuring out your goals, putting that money towards savings up front so you can then make that a reality.
I love that transition, and obviously pay yourself first is such a great principle to begin with. I like to change that metaphor of delayed gratification, really looking at it as prioritized gratification. You don't sacrifice for your goals, you prioritize what you want most. So I love beginning with that, and that is such a great kind of transition from that feast or famine mindset. And so Lori, as you look at it, people are starting to get good principles, good habitual advice, influence. But as you see a lot of your clients, young people today, begin in this avenue, what are your concerns, what are your thoughts as they venture down?
Yeah, one of the points that I always like to drive home, especially with younger investors, is just to be aware of bad advice. There are a lot of influencers out there, right? So we've got, podcasts, YouTube channels, Instagram, everything. There's a lot of people that are slinging out advice, and
I'm going to mention TikTok. I feel like that's the elephant in the room.
I'm aging myself.
Yeah, there you go. The kids are on TikTok these days.
as well. Yeah, but they really don't have credentials. They don't have to hold themselves to any standard, and frankly, they only really celebrate their wins, right? They don't tell you about all of the stocks that they lost money on. So just be aware of that. The slow and steady approach is boring, but it's successful, and it's successful for a reason. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So just really focus in on those basics, try and have a plan. That's how you really build wealth over time, not by looking at those trends. So.
And how do you get someone to connect with that slow and steady approach? We see the shoot the moon, I can make 70% in 3 days. How do you get someone to connect their values to those goals? Is there that conversation around what money means and what you're trying to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a goal in a lot of areas of life, to try and show that small habits make changes over time. For us, it always drives back to starting with a plan. We do a lot of planning work with clients, even if you're young and it seems like retirement is so far away. Just kind of showing what habitualized savings over time, investing over time can do, and just being able to picture it really helps to drive home the fact that it does make a difference down the road.
I always come back to that athletic mindset. A veteran, 15-year NFL player told me a story about the game of inches, those small, subtle changes, and he explained it as an inch can lead to a yard to a first down to a touchdown to wins, and wins, well, they can get you to the Super Bowl. And breaking money and finances down to that kind of increment is one we can all achieve. So I personally love that. Greg, having a master's in this subject, how do you approach what the beauty of going and working at a company, getting this paycheck? What is one of the opportunities that young people and all employees can take advantage of that sometimes gets overlooked?
Yeah. You mentioned different professions when you first started this question, and mentioned astronaut.
Yeah.
Paul knew my father. He was in my wedding, and when I was a young boy, I told my dad I wanted to be an astronaut. And he said, "Well, you have the first syllable right." So he was a little rough. So I had kind of a tough upbringing. So we've had our CPA firm for 38 years, and merged with CBiz, which is the only publicly traded CPA firm in the country, CBiz. And that was 2 years ago. And prior to that, I'd never received a paycheck that anything was taken out of. It was just draws, and you had to take care of your own estimated tax payments and pensions and all the other things. And one of the first times I got this paycheck from CBiz 2 years ago, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. I make this amount of money, but look, all the taxes are already taken out, and they're taking out stuff for a 401k, and they're matching the 401k, and they're taking out stuff for an employee stock purchase plan, and I can buy their stock at a 15% discount. So I'm making out of the gate, I'm making 18 or 19% if you do the math, and all the different benefits associated with working for a reputable, good company that's going to take care of their employees. So, in answer to your question, jump in and take advantage of everything that you can, that's available to you. To the extent you can max out your 401k, max it out, as long as, you're getting, contributions from your employer, and these other fringe benefit plans, they just over time, they can turn into, great windfalls of wealth. So that'd be my advice.
And as you look at that, because students today have this new opportunity, maybe not new opportunity, but they are so much more employed than they were in my generation, past generations, whether it's the gig economy, e-commerce, NIL today, students are getting paid, but they're not W-2 employees. Can you just give us that kind of a brief scope of the difference? And you mentioned one of them.
Yeah, I taught classes for the athletic department on NIL, nature, image, likeness stuff, all the new stuff that athletes are doing. And everybody, they all want to start their own LLC, and they want to, they want to, do this and deduct this, and be prepared for all the money that they're going to make as an athlete now. And what I tried to impart to them was, just like as a football player or an athlete, and there were other athletes other than football players in that room, with this success and, with this opportunity that's been given to you, comes responsibility. Jason knows all this as a professional athlete as well. There's a responsibility that comes with this. You've got to, if you're going to be a successful professional or a successful college athlete, you have to go to class. You have to maintain your eligibility. You have to be a good citizen. You have, there's just a lot of responsibilities that come with this reward. Mm-hmm. And the same thing applies in business, or starting your own business, or now not working for somebody else, now working on your own. Yeah, it's cool to start an LLC, and there's a lot of benefits and opportunities that come with that. But there's also, with that comes a lot of responsibilities and things that you need to do. You can't just take the gravy and leave the whatever. Like an example would be, I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, I had a vacation house down in California. I started this LLC. I put it in this LLC. I'm getting these weird notices from the California Franchise Tax Board. I go, well, did you file a tax return? He goes, what are you talking about? It's a LLC. Single member LLC. I thought these were disregarded for tax purposes. I go, yeah, they're disregarded for federal tax purposes, not disregarded for state of California. They want to see a little informational tax return, and they want that. But what they really want is $800 every year that goes along with it. And how many years haven't you filed? Well, it's been like 12. Let's see, 800 times 12, okay, plus penalties for failure to file, penalties for failure to pay, interest expense, interest associated with this. Yeah, you owe. Yeah, I'm sorry, you owe about 20 grand, and that's an example of not being cognizant of the responsibilities that come with the ability to own your own business. Write off your own expenses. Maybe you're the only person in your pension plan, and you're dumping tens and tens of thousands of dollars into it, and those things are all great, but they come with responsibility.
I think, we look at this age, and everybody wants to be self-employed because I control my calendar and I make more money. And then you get realizations like that. You realize, hey, FICA doubles automatically, and you just go, oh, that other job didn't sound so bad.
Yeah, when you're self-employed, whether it's through an LLC or whether it's a sole proprietorship, when you do your individual tax return, you're paying federal tax just like you normally would as an employee. But you've got to pay the self-employment tax. So it's and now you're the employer and the employee. So it's almost double what you would have paid had you been an employee. So you've got to pay on the Medicare and the Social Security that's associated with your earnings as well. So there's really, at least 2 other taxes that are attached to you in addition to just paying your federal income tax. And a lot of people don't realize that. What are you talking about? I thought I only owed 10 grand. You're right. You only owed 10 grand in federal income tax, but I'm sorry. There's another 8 in self-employment tax.
I get to work with a lot of the NFL guys, and there's no limit on how much you are getting taxed in different places. Ruth, as you look at that idea, you're working with professionals, people. What is the difference between a W-2 and a 1099 as they start to look at their cash management and begin a plan? How much different is your recommendations and your kind of guidance for them?
I think that might be out of my wheelhouse. I
That's
think it
more
might be
Lori?
more Lori.
Lori, go ahead, step
Yeah,
on in.
absolutely. I mean, as a W-2 employee, you're pretty restricted on benefits you can utilize. You have great company benefits often, so more of our planning will be around that. But in terms of, tax write-offs and flexibility there, you can kind of maximize your 401k plan, but there's not many other tools to bring your income down. If you're self-employed, there's a lot of other options. There's more flexibility in how you set up to pay yourself in your own retirement plan. The limits are much higher, so there's a ton of flexibility there. But as Greg said, you really have to pay attention to what other things come with that, which is more taxes, more reporting. You want to employ a team to be able to make sure that you're not letting anything fall through the gaps.
And Greg mentioned LLC. Give us just a broad introduction into what is an LLC and why would I be opening one?
Yeah, I mean, limited liability company is what LLC stands for, and most people open them just for what it sounds like. They want to limit their liability so that if for any reason their business does not succeed, if there is some sort of liability issue that comes up in their business, that their personal assets are protected. You also want to, before you open one, do your research on whether or not that does protect you, because in some industries, having an LLC doesn't actually mean that your personal assets aren't at stake. So always talk to a professional.
And another topic, again, very interested and encouraged in how people today are trying to create secondary streams of income. Real estate, LLC and a real estate.
That might be
falling
more
to Greg?
Yeah.
Greg, if I'm starting real estate, trying to do rental properties, is that something that I should look at opening an LLC for?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to hold it individually for the very reasons that you mentioned. Rule 101, Tax 101, never put real estate inside a corporation. Really, whether it be a C corporation or an S corporation, especially a C, but even an S, you just never. There's a variety of reasons why you wouldn't want to do that. So, kind of what you're left with is, a limited partnership or an LLC. That's pretty much what you're left with if you want to try to limit your liability. And the beauty of having an LLC is, based on the way it's set up, there's a certain way to potentially write off more than you put into it. Normally, you're limited to if you put $15,000 into a real estate investment, your deduction, because there's heavy depreciation, things like that, those deductions might be just limited to $15,000, but there's ability to write off more than you put into it if you have debt that's inside that LLC as well. So that's why you see any type of real estate investment is normally done through an LLC or a limited partnership. Generally never through an S corporation and never through a C corp.
And in another panel, we're going to dive into why an S corp. But for now, we're going to pivot back, kind of get a little more broad. Ruth, as we look at the state of the economy, the state of the world, I mean, over the last year, we've all been introduced to this term called an I-bond and this idea of inflation. How do we as consumers, as workers, as daily finances, even approach what the idea of inflation is and truly how to battle it?
Yeah, that's a big one. Good question. So inflation, of course, I think we're all being definitely hit with inflation. I think everybody in this room goes to the grocery store and we're like, yikes, that bread would not cost that much a couple of years ago. It's definitely a thing. Of course, inflation, our money's not going as far as it used to. One of the things I always recommend, especially when we're talking to college students and adult classes especially, is really going back to the idea of your budget and really looking at, okay, what is going up? Where can I revisit this my budget and see where can I make my money stretch further? But not just that, but looking at ideas of, before inflation was really high, maybe you're looking at your debt repayment plan. Maybe you just finished college and you have school debt that you have, right? And maybe you were pushing towards paying that off. I'm going to pay it off in 5 years. We got a plan, right? And then inflation's kind of taken that where money is not going as far as it used to. So maybe one idea is slowing down that repayment plan a little more, right? Maybe adjusting that, not stopping it, obviously, but maybe thinking, okay, I'm going to maybe put a little less money there so I can focus on the essentials I need to buy, if that's in your situation. If that's not in your situation, feel free to put more money towards your debt, totally. Other simple things can be like, of course, putting things towards our goals. What are our goals right now? Are we looking at, as one of your big goals, to take a vacation? Maybe you just graduated from college. oh my gosh, I need a vacation, right? And things like that. Putting things on hold for right now, or maybe minimizing your goals to what, maybe changing them up a little bit than what they were before. But yeah, taking a look at things like interest rates on your cards, on your cars, on your homes. Maybe not homes, but cards. Are you carrying balances on your cards right now? Is inflation impacting that because of the higher interest rates that are coming at you right now, right? Do you have a variable interest rate on your credit card? Do you have a variable interest rate on your HELOC? Should I be transferring to a fixed rate, right? Which is better for my wallet at the moment? So looking at those kind of different tips and tools, to the basics of looking at, I knew this gentleman once that he would always put a ticker or a reminder on his cell phone for like every 3 months. And he would say every 3 months he was going to call things like his cell phone provider, his car insurance, and all these people every 3 months, like religiously he would do this. And he said he would call them up and ask them if they had any discounts, right? Because they're not going to call you up and say, hey, you want to save some money? Of course not. So he said, I'm going to call them up, see if they have any discounts. And he said it was probably about a 20-80% thing. 80% of the time they said no, and 20% of the time they said, oh yeah, we do have a few breaks you can take advantage of, right? So he said he saved a little bit of money with that, which was nice, and it was a small thing, but like you were saying, those small changes make a big difference, especially when you're looking at how to make my money stretch as much as possible. So that's, one of the biggest things.
Do have to give a PSA announcement to those students who want a vacation after college. That was the vacation.
It's true.
So true.
Here comes reality. But I love this mindset because inflation is such this broad subject term, and the one guarantee we have all in our lives and in our money is your spending is going to go up. That is the only guarantee that there is about money. We try to personalize and look at your financial plan. And I remember, being younger and looking at it and saying, if I could just spend $100,000 a year, I would be fine for the rest of my life. 10 years later, that $100,000 is not anywhere near a sustainable plan like it was just a few years before. So that rule of 72, compound interest, works for and against you. And so, Lori, as we begin to look at this, inflation can be scary. It shows good and bad in the economy. How do you recommend somebody start to prepare or plan to fight it?
Absolutely. If you invest over the long term, which hopefully everyone will, right, you're going to see all types of markets. You're going to see high inflationary periods. You're going to see boom times, recessions. And so in any given moment, we just have to evaluate what's the best move, right? So this isn't the first time that we've had high inflation. We can look historically at sectors that might have performed well in inflation, well when there was inflation combined with a recession, and just pivot little pieces of your investment and portfolio for that, and then also just look for opportunities. So because we've seen inflation go up, the Fed has raised interest rates. So I'm sure most people notice at their bank account that they're finally getting a little bit of interest on savings. If you haven't noticed that, call your bank and change into a savings account that will pay you. But there's now short-term interest that we haven't seen for over a decade. We can use T-bills, CDs, high-yield savings accounts, and just make our money work for us in the current environment in ways that it will. And it's easy to focus on the big picture and think like, well, all my long-term money's down. I'm just gonna hold tight in cash. But there's always opportunities in these markets to try and use it for, yourself 10 years down the road, and you can look back and be like, wow, I'm really glad we made that decision, even though at the time it feels a little bit scary.
CD, certificate deposit, what's a T-bill?
So a T-bill is a treasury bond. It's issued by the government, and they are now paying pretty decent interest rates, and you can buy them pretty much at any terms. You can buy them for 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, up to 10-year maturities. And so if you think, I have this spending goal that's 4 months out, you can buy a T-bill that matures in 4 months, pick up a little bit of interest, and make the government pay you back. So,
have you seen, and this is just off script curiosity, Apple, talking about savings accounts, just came out with a pretty hefty one. Have you seen any of your clients start to at least question and wonder, should that be something I pursue?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not against shopping around for a better rate. We always try and keep track of what banks are paying well on just savings accounts that don't have a cost. Always make sure that you've also got that FDIC insurance. If you are in a cash-based asset, you want that to back you up. But yeah, I mean, absolutely for that short-term savings, shopping around for a rate is not a bad idea.
And I will give them a shout out. Credit unions typically can offer a little bit higher of an interest rate because they don't respond to shareholders. They're owned by their members. So I know we have at least
Can I add
one.
one thing to this?
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing, a couple points I'd like to add is, a lot of people are on fixed income, and they were just suffering, and it's tragic to see it. When their interest rates were dirt low, they weren't getting, any reasonable rate of return on any type of fixed income, and then they had to venture into the riskiness of other asset classes, and now they have the ability to make a higher rate of return. But it's a weird time because, like you mentioned, you're making 25 basis points at a bank. Well, they're not overly inclined to come to you and tell you what the alternatives are if they can just continue to pay that rate of interest. But the interesting thing is, and with this crisis, some of the bank crises and things like that, why is that happening? First Republic, that company was profitable. Silvergate or whatever it was, that company was profitable. These are profitable banks, but what happened to them? Well, what happened to them was when you give your money to a bank and you take you're in a savings account or a checking account, this goes on their books as a liability. It's on the bank's books as a liability, just like accrued vacation or payroll or any other type of debt. They collect that money and they do something with it. They lend it out. So they either lend it out or they invest it. And that money, they don't have that money. It's gone. It's been invested in maybe long-term bonds, government bonds, things like that, or lent out to if they're lending to the public. They don't have it. So why are these? What's the problem then if these banks are in fact profitable? The problem is lack of liquidity. When everybody makes a run on a bank because they hear something bad about local banks and stuff, no bank has all the money sitting in the coffers just sitting there ready to hand back out. They don't have it, and that creates a liquidity crisis. Then the government has to step in and manage that. But the point is, we're at a kind of a unique time right now where there's this opportunity where you had this account that was paying you such a dirt low rate of interest, so you were accepting a low rate of return with a high rate of risk. Okay, right? That doesn't go together. Low rate, high risk doesn't go together. And you have an opportunity. There's an opportunity to switch to higher rate, lower risk. And how do you do that? You do that by getting off the balance sheet of a bank, meaning it's not a checking account, it's not a savings account, it's a brokerage account. It's something that's custodied. Your money is custodied at a particular account. It could be with Bordeaux Capital. It could be with, you name it. Out there's a variety of great money managers and the ability to do that through banks as well, through their brokerage arms. But that's kind of the key thing. You have an ability now to say, hey, I don't want a savings account here. I want a brokerage account. I'm going to get 5.5%. This is great. I'm getting a better rate of return. It's not on the balance sheet. It's not subject to I'm not subject to the risk of being a creditor. That's great too. They go under. I get my money back. It's in a separate custodied account. So it's a weird time, and that's why you're seeing kind of this transition now where people aren't standing for it anymore, where they're getting this lower rate of return with a higher rate of risk.
And Lori, we were actually having a conversation earlier around a sweep account. And that was even a term that kind of caught me off. I had to ask my friend Elliot, it's like, she said something, explain. Explain what that is and why it's been interesting the last year.
Yeah, I was saying it's kind of funny that our biggest selling point this year is our sweep account, which is basically our money market internally with our account. So all a sweep account does is, it doesn't matter how much money you hold. Let's say you hold $2 million with us and we put it all in cash because we're doing a slow buy-in strategy. That sweep account will not hold more than the FDIC limit at any one institution for your name. So instead of you having to go and say, I want to make sure I don't go above $250,000, that limit at any given bank, and open an account, at Wells Fargo, BCU, and open accounts at a ton of institutions, this sweep account does that on your behalf, so that you're basically covered up to a much higher limit with that, and it pays interest. So
that is taking what Greg was talking about, this fractional reserve banking system, which I use all the time to get students to see banks, credit unions are your friends, and they can give you great guidance and great tools, but they're also using your money. You need to begin to see money in that same lane. If you're not using it and you're parking it somewhere, somebody else is using it arguably better than you are. We all have to adopt this new mindset of how are we going to use our money. And as we kind of begin in that lane of using my money, getting into the investment world, seeing money as a different, I'll use the term, seeing money as a vehicle, plug, but Ruth, how do we begin down that lane? We keep hearing this, I need to invest. Where does investing start? And you said pay yourself first earlier, but what does that really begin with? How do I start down that pay yourself first plan?
Yeah, good question. So how do you start paying? I think it's just, first of all, looking at your finances, first of all, obviously, and thinking how, again, going back to what are your expenses that you have, what are the expenses you want to have, and where can I cut back in terms of your expenses and the obligations that you have, and then how much can I actually put into my savings to invest there, or different ways you're going to invest in different areas. I think you could probably speak more to investing on that, definitely, for sure. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, the next step is trying to figure out really we like to use buckets of money, right? So we've got short-term money that, you might be able to save for a while. You've got kind of that midterm 1 to 3 years maybe. And you've got long-term money. And so long-term money should be in the market. Investing through either a retirement plan or just an individual brokerage account. And there are strategies to implement to do that. Dollar cost averaging, I don't know if you've heard that term, but basically it takes a lot of the emotion out of investing, and you just set a reoccurring plan to just buy into the market at certain points. And so that has been shown time and time again to be the most successful approach to investing. So set yourself up with either investing through a retirement vehicle like an IRA, your 401k through work, just getting a systematic deposit going into the market and really letting compound interest work for you. That's the way to get started.
And you had a great response to my a social media post that says, this is the time, right now. The market's going up, it's going down, it's going left, it's going right. What was your quote that kind of summarizes that concept in one?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's my quote, but the phrase is, it's time in the market and not timing the market. So especially when we're in a really volatile period, everyone tells me, well, why don't I just wait and buy at the bottom? That's great if you can tell me when the bottom is, right? If anyone knew that, the market wouldn't work the way it does. And it never feels good to buy at the bottom. If we look back historically at when the market actually bottomed, it's not like that day everyone was super optimistic, right? So you can't really time it. Data shows time and time again, you can't time it. People who try generally lose out over time. So if you have long-term money, the good time to buy is now, right? Even if we're in a growing market, the good time to buy is now, because 5 years from now, if we look back, the likelihood that money is going to be worth more is very high.
I will take credit for that quote then, so thank you.
Then there's the Will Rogers principle, which is, it's not necessarily the return on my money I want, it's the return of my money I want.
Nice.
Will Rogers, my father just gave me a book on him, great public speaker.
Yeah.
Greg,
Not as good as you.
Nah, well, I got a lot to live up to. But as you look at this idea, being a CPA, you may not look at investments and say, hey, I'm going to be able to guarantee an investment return. Mm-hmm. But I am able to look at these tax advantage accounts. You mentioned a 401k, a 403b earlier. Now we're hearing of this new, it's not new, but a Roth idea. Can you just tell us why these are, we started with a brokerage, need to have a brokerage because they connect into these, but why do I go from a brokerage to one of these two kinds of accounts, and what's the advantage of those?
Yeah, I think we're talking about backdoor Roth IRAs, and maybe you guys you might be better suited to speak to those. But there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and if you can get your money, in a position where you're not paying current taxes on it, and that money's just growing, whether it's tax-free, if in the case of like municipal bonds, or tax-deferred in the case of certain other types of investments, that's going to be a great way to go. And one of the popular things lately is a backdoor IRA or Roth IRA. If you want to, maybe one of you want to
Yeah,
speak to
I
that.
can. Yeah, absolutely. So just as a quick basic, there's a regular IRA and a Roth IRA. So the difference is, the government's always going to take their tax, but with a regular IRA, they take that tax down the road. So you get a write-off for whatever you put into a regular IRA now in the year that you contribute to it. But let's say in retirement, you're pulling from that to fund your lifestyle, you're going to pay tax on whatever comes out of that account at that time. So a Roth IRA is the opposite. We put taxed money in it now, but all of the growth and all of that basis that we pull back out of that account in the future is tax-free. So they're a really good tool. The longer you have money in them, the more growth that you are kind of protecting from future tax. And so they're much more effective for younger people. But then you run into the fact that most younger people don't have a ton of excess cash flow to be funding them. And so when people really want to utilize Roths, there's an income limit on being able to fund a Roth. And by the time you have enough to save, you generally are above that income limit. So a backdoor Roth is a way to still use a Roth IRA even if you make too much money. And there's kind of two main ways to do that. One is if your employer has that option within their benefits package. Sometimes there's an after-tax 401k bucket or 403b bucket that you're able to fund and then roll into a Roth IRA. That's one method. Another method is to open yourself a traditional IRA that you're funding with actual after-tax dollars and then rolling right into a Roth IRA in the same year. Both of those have big tax implications though, so I wouldn't try and implement one before you talk to somebody, especially that second method. If you have multiple IRA accounts, it might not be as advantageous as that sounds. So
It gets very muddy if you start making money in that first IRA and then try to transition it over.
Yeah, you'll have a bigger tax bill, which might not make you very happy.
That is a little tip and trick and tool I got to use in the NFL. Again, knowing the game helps you tremendously.
Yeah.
Ruth, as we look at this idea, we talk about these things, we start going down these paths, and there's always a voice in the back of a lot of people's head around money, around how it hits, it lands. I don't understand, so I avoid it, or there's just usually a script that is kind of being played with or without our knowledge. Can you just talk, and then I would love to open it up and see if we can get some questions from the room, but can you just talk a little bit on that approach, that mindset that comes with this conversation of money?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest, one of the most interesting kind of perspectives I've heard is the money scripts, and it was Brad Klontz that talked about it and coined that term. There are these scripts in our head, of course, that we have all around money. And everybody in this room is probably going to have something different, a perspective on money, how we use it, how we feel about it. He coined the term money scripts and used the four kind of like money avoidance, money worship, money, excuse me, I'm losing it, money vigilance, right? A lot of times I will go into high schools. About 10 years ago, I would go into these high schools, and these high school students would loathe credit. I would start talking about how to build credit, what credit is, and they instantly shut me down of, we're never using it, we're never talking about it, we just don't want to talk about it.
Our guy, Dave Ramsey.
Right? And so I asked him, and I asked him, I said, why don't you like credit? And, if you don't want to use it, fine. But if why don't you like it? And they said, and we got to the idea and the conclusion that their parents, a lot of their parents got into trouble with credit in like 2009 when the economy was not doing so well. And so they saw their parents having their home foreclosed on them, having their credit cards going way out of control, right? And so the students saw this, and they thought, oh, I'm never going to do that, right? Now we're going to high schools and colleges now. Students have a little bit different perspective on credit, given their age group they're growing up. So we all have different money perspectives. I would definitely say one of the keys to having a long and happy marriage, I think, not that I'm the best expert on this yet, well, I've only been in 7 years, but what's the number one reasons why, marriages fail in the United States? Facebook. I'm just kidding. Yes, it's money. Yes, it's money. Yes, right. But exactly. Why? Because we all have these different varying money aspects. When you come together as a unit, oh my goodness, even before you do, talk to each other. If you've been married for 20 years, talk to each other. See what your perspective is growing up on what money is. My mom told me never to answer the phone growing up. Why? debt collectors, right? If debt collectors could call, I remember this. And I was like, oh, so to this day, I get a chill whenever I get a phone call. I'm back, oh, no, oh, we're fine, I'm fine. But money perspectives is so important to come at yourself and ask yourself, where am I at right now? But also, that kind of bleeds into your money, your budgeting tools, like the tools that you use when you're budgeting, right? Or if you're working as a unit, you may use pen and paper when you figure out your finances. Some of you may use a lot of fintech options, right? There's tons of fintech options out there for budgeting as well, and for creating, focusing on money and working with your money. So knowing your money perspective and how you work with it and how you use it is very much key in terms of how you're going to succeed with it.
You get a chill when you get a phone call. Now if somebody shows up at my front door, it's uncomfortable.
Oh my goodness.
Who are you? What do you need?
Right.
Question from the group. I mean, I have plenty more questions we can run through, but I always want to make this valuable of your time. Thoughts? We have all different kinds of expertise. Yes, sir.
So we're all pretty excited once we start to earn wages and things like that. There's a whole lot of cool stuff we can do with it. In addition to all the cool stuff we can do with it, what would you say is our responsibility of earning wages and what we have to take into consideration and kind of plan on as we earn wages?
A responsibility that comes with starting to earn your wages. Go ahead, Greg.
I think I can answer that. Because I'm the big one on, with this benefit comes responsibility. I think one of the key things is, obviously there's a wide variety of ages in the room, some of whom are married. You have a responsibility to your family, right? So you have a responsibility for your children. You have a responsibility if you don't have a will. I mean, you should have a will whether you're married or not, whether you have children or not. There's a lot more things inside a will other than just saying where your stuff's going. So there's a responsibility when you start to accumulate some wealth. I mean, I think that's kind of a big thing, making sure you're providing for your family. I hate this term, and people use it all the time and they love it, but I hate this term giving back. I hate that term because it almost makes it sound like you took from.
Yeah.
It's like I took from you, so I'm going to give some back, and I don't like that concept. I think you just have a moral obligation to support your community, or your church, or whatever interests you in that regard. So I think there's a moral responsibility that comes with that as you're starting to make money. Making sure that you do set some aside for the benefit of other people and other groups. I think those are kind of really two key things. The responsibility that you have to your family, however big that may be, and the responsibility that you have to your community.
Laura?
Yeah, I'd just say to add to that, I mean, it's highly personal what you decide that paycheck means to you, right? Money can do a lot of things for a lot of different people, and each of us kind of really earmarks what is important. So it's good to just take some time, especially as your net worth starts growing, to just be a little bit more intentional about what it actually means to you. Setting, some goal and seeing if you're actually going to reach it with the track that you're on, and just making that money more tangible and have more meaning. I think that's an important thing to do, just to really know what you're earning for. And then always just making sure that you have an emergency fund set up so that there are times like we're seeing right now where layoffs hit and you don't have that paycheck. Making sure that you're prepared for any of those situations and you're not going to, lose sleep at night because you didn't save for those kind of feast or famine moments. So
I like pilgrimage that we are on in our curriculum is actually shifting the idea of taxes. We don't use the word taxes, we change it to society. I think one of our responsibilities is to see the money that we are making in the society and the community that we are part of and how we do contribute to that. This is not a tax that you pay back or pay into. This is something that controls and provides everything in between what I own and what you own as individuals. So I think there is a great responsibility. We have time for one more question. If anybody has one before, all right.
No, I want to make an observation.
Yes, sir.
I have a little sister. She is a nurse from Washington State University. I'm a Cougar too, but she's a nurse. She's a labor and delivery nurse, spent her entire life in labor and delivery. But she had a hobby. She learned to work the stock market and look and manage her money intelligently. And all I can say is all of you that don't have a business background, she didn't have a business background, she was a nurse. But she has a very But she just kind of slowly worked through this process, put money aside every month, and she is doing very well. I'm very proud.
She took inch by inch. Let's end with that question. Go ahead. Love it. Biggest money mistake, and if you want to answer biggest mistake with one action you'd like to see people take, let's wrap it up. Ruth.
Seek out professional advice. Yeah, not on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, go to the people who know. I'm not an expert in certain fields, so I need to go because I know that if I try something, it's not like, okay, maybe, but it might work a little bit, but seek out professional advice for what you're looking for.
I would say to avoid fads because we've seen a lot of them in recent years with crypto, NFTs, GameStop. We've had a lot of recent examples of why chasing headlines doesn't pay off, and especially being aware of what is regulated, what's insured, what's backed up, because unfortunately what we've seen with things like FTX, it sounds nice to be in something that the man doesn't have their hands in, but when it comes down to it and there is fraud on a scale like we saw, you do want a regulator to be able to step in and help you out and repair investors. So just really try and be aware of the levels of risk when you're looking at an asset and think about all of the things that could go wrong, I guess.
Great.
And I would say, along these same lines, is not taking advice. This goes back to getting professional advice, but the flip side, not taking advice from people that have no vested interest in you, right? So cocktail parties, they're talking, you should do this and you should do that. So just be careful of getting advice from parties that aren't vested in the outcome with you. And then if you're going to lend money to a relative, it's gone. So if you think you're getting it back, I don't care, you get a note, whatever you want, you're not getting it back.
I will say, because I'm a financial literacy advocate and passionate, I think it's broken today. I think that term, spend less than you make, is a good enough financial plan, is really hitting in the wrong lane. We need to see money in saving is no longer going to be enough for a sustainable financial plan in today's world. So we have to overcome that idea that spending less than you make is enough today. It used to be a phenomenal plan. It's a great first step of a plan, but saving is no longer going to be enough in our economy, our world, and we need to begin to see money differently, make it go to work for us.
I have to say one thing, I have to recognize my quarterback. Jack Thompson came in the room, or I would have called it out sooner. Yeah, but Jack was a senior when Paul and I were freshmen. Paul and I came in together, actually from the same athletic league, the Diablo Valley Athletic League down in Northern California. Yeah, he went to the rich school, I went to the poor school. Anyway, so we're freshmen. Jack's a senior, and I'm on defense, and we're playing this little scrimmage thing, and I was rushing Jack as the quarterback, and I'm rushing him, and my momentum got me going, and I accidentally bumped him. He had a yellow shirt on, which meant you're not supposed to touch him.
Not supposed to touch the franchise.
He had a yellow shirt. He doesn't like this story, but he had a yellow shirt on, which means don't touch him. And my momentum got me into him, and I hit him, and he wasn't prepared for it, and kind of fell down. And I was in big trouble because I hit him, and I thought, God, is this? And I really didn't know that. I was a freshman. I knew who he was, but I'm thinking, gee, I didn't know we had Mother Teresa on the team. And but.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for your time. This is an important conversation. We need more Cougs to speak this language of money. Thank you to the panelists, your expertise, and enjoy the rest of the day. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. Should be a fun 30 minutes or so. I'm going to go through some slides, talk about some cool things happening at WSU as a system, and we always like to have some time at the end for some Q&A. So it's been a really fantastic day so far with CougsFirst. I recently discovered podcasts, and if you have not listened to the CougsFirst podcast, I encourage you to do so. It is a cool way when you're driving around and you got a little bit of time. There's no traffic here in Seattle for those of you from this area, so you never have any extra time in your car. But it's neat to see all the different people, their connections with our university, what they've done, and it's just a really cool thing. So the only podcast so far that I haven't listened to is the one I did. I just don't want to hear myself talk. So anyway, I know you have a hard time believing that. But thank you all for being here. Let's talk about some of the great stuff happening. Well, to begin off with, this was really super exciting for all of WSU, watching our women's basketball team win the Pac-12 tournament. Interestingly, I was doing some fundraising and stuff here, and that morning, Sunday morning, got up, flew to Las Vegas, had a chance, I didn't even check out my hotel room in this hotel, went there, had a chance to watch us win the Pac-12 championship, managed to get up on a ladder, yes. You know, funny, the commissioner leaned over to me on the stage when they're celebrating all this stuff and said, I am so much happier handing it to you than UCLA. So anyway, it was, take that for what it's worth. But, and I managed to get up on a ladder with a pair of gold-plated scissors and cut down part of the net. It didn't hurt myself or fall. So given that I've turned 60, that's actually a monumental thing to do each day. But we are really, really pleased with this direction. Shania Twain on Twitter, talking about women's basketball at Washington State University, New York Times, the front page, just a lot of personal pride amongst Cougs everywhere around this. And for at least 24 to 48 hours, we were the talk of women's basketball nationally, and that's a great place to be. Cammie Etheridge, we're just going to stick with this theme. It works so well. Cammie Etheridge named National Coach of the Year by The Athletic. And one of the things that Pat and his team in athletics have just done a great job at attracting and retaining outstanding coaches, whether it's women's basketball, golf, tennis, baseball. You look at top to bottom across the spectrum of all of our sports. It's one of the best coaching staffs I've seen as a collective team in 3 or 4 universities that I've worked with. It's great to sort of see that. And they talk and support each other, and they challenge each other. And I think you don't always see that as well. And so Pat's just really built a great environment there, and it's great to see some of our folks be successful. And I know you've had some opportunities to talk about some of the different challenges that we see in our intercollegiate athletics these days. The Cougs are stepping up to support through our Cougar Collective and other types of things. But it's a dynamic, changing world, and we have some of the right people in the right place at the time. So speaking of Pat, I remember Pat got this opportunity to go through Congress and talk about name, image, and likeness. And interestingly, many of you may know that the name, image, and likeness, likely federal action, if we can get something across the finish line on this, really goes to the Commerce Committees. And on the House side, the House Republican chairwoman is Kathy McMorris Rogers. On the Senate side, it's Washington Senator Maria Cantwell. So the state of Washington is in a unique position and opportunity to really influence any federal legislation in the NIL space. And what better spokesperson to have than have Pat up there talking about this. It was picked up nationally, and it's also another reminder that Washington State's leading in some of these challenging areas. So Pat's done a great job. I know he's up there somewhere taking pictures and probably sending me nice text messages, but a round of applause for our outstanding athletic director. Thank you. So it's been a year of change at Washington State University. When we started, if we go back sort of a year ago, one of the things that we had just started to do was really exercise and do some restructuring around WSU as a system. Those of you who have been around our university for a long time, we've been a system for a while. We've had campuses outside of Pullman for over 30 years in Vancouver and Tri-Cities and Spokane, at a new campus in Everett. We've got the global campus. Then we have our flagship in Pullman. But we actually went through a restructuring process where I took over as system president. I'd always had that role, but we then appointed Elizabeth Chilton as our first ever Pullman campus chancellor, so that she has day-to-day responsibilities for the Pullman campus. And we, gave me the opportunity to be out and about in our communities a little bit more, supporting all of our chancellors in their particular areas and communities. So, at the end of the day, most people from the outside may not see a lot, but what we're seeing is in each of those communities, and those chancellors now are able to hopefully focus those campuses on what's important in that area. That includes degree programs, that includes research, that includes opportunities for students. And guess what? The opportunities, there are going to be some that are the same at all of our campuses, but what we need in the Tri-Cities and what we need in Vancouver and what we need in Pullman are going to be a little bit different. And we should recognize that. It's all part of the WSU family. Now, interestingly, we have maintained a single accreditation across all of our campuses, and that can be higher ed in the weeds. But what that means is, no matter which campus you go to, when you get that diploma, it says Washington State University. It doesn't say Washington State University Pullman, Washington State University Tri-Cities. Every degree is the same, no matter which campus you get it from. And all of our faculty are the same. So a mechanical engineering faculty member in Vancouver is part of the same faculty as a mechanical engineering faculty member in Tri-Cities or Pullman. And we've walked to keep it that way, and that's different. A lot of systems, their campuses are separate. They're underneath a system president, but they're separately accredited. They have degrees that have that designation on there, and we want to do it a little bit differently. So what we want to do is, what are the best things that we can do to give our campuses autonomy and meet our students' needs? And what are the things that we don't want to duplicate that you would say that's unnecessary and it takes something away from being a Coug? So I like to say all of our campuses bleed crimson and gray, but they're different shades, and that's all right. So, well, one of the things that certainly we've spent a lot of time on this last year is enrollment. And you all have seen the news headlines. WSU enrollment is down across the system and in many of our campuses. And our high water mark was immediately prior to the pandemic. The pandemic was not kind to enrollment at WSU. As a matter of fact, it wasn't kind to enrollment anywhere in the state of Washington. Some of our community college friends are down, double-digit percentages. All the other publics in the state were also seeing some downturns, with the exception of our colleagues, University of Washington, on their main campus, not their other two campuses. So what are we doing? Saichi Oba, who's our Vice Provost for Enrollment Management for WSU, who's been with us now for a couple years, came to us from the University of Alaska system, has really brought us doing some new things. And what we're already seeing is we expect to be about 10% up this fall, we think, in enrollment across the system, which means that we're back now probably past the numbers not just a year ago, but 2 years ago. But a lot of that has not just been we were doing the same things over and over, but trying new things. So, for example, we'll do some on-the-spot admissions, where if you have the right qualifications, you're admitted right then. You don't have to wait. We've used our research and extension centers as an example to also do career fairs and things where we bring in students, our high school recruitment fairs, and people can be admitted there. We switched to something called the Common App, which again, a little within higher ed, is something that any of you have had children, grandchildren, colleagues, anybody you know, look at going to school. The Common App is used widely across the United States. We had used a homegrown system for a long time. We switched to that. We saw a 30% increase in applications to WSU through the Common App. So we're doing lots of new and different things around enrollment. So it's not just we hope that it recovers, but we're doing things that we probably wouldn't even think about doing 2 years ago, and we're going to continue to improve. So while we see it coming up, as you all know, the competition for students is intense. It's going to continue to be intense. And as Washington, everybody talks about an enrollment cliff. We may not see that same enrollment cliff in Washington like other states. Guess what that means? Everybody on the West Coast is going to be coming up here to recruit. And if I just look in my 7 years here in Spokane, for example, when I first got here, University of Arizona, Arizona State, we're not really there much recruiting students. They are very active in that community. They're certainly really active here in Bellevue and Seattle about recruiting students. So our life and world has changed in recruitment, and we got to change along with it. So we're going to continue to do that. Happy to answer any questions that people have on that. We continue to have a strong research mission, and we want to continue to do stuff that is really a benefit to the state of Washington, to the region, and the nation. And I think you're going to see those emerge in each area. For example, this year in the governor's budget, we got a new energy center that's going to be at our WSU headquarters at our WSU Tri-Cities campus, have faculty among multiple locations. And this is going to be dealing with tough energy policy issues in the state. How do we work with green energy? How do we make sure we work with traditional forms of fossil fuels and those type of energy? Where do you go to get a bipartisan set of advice on some of these really tough issues? It's going to be at WSU. And that means that we're going to hire a bunch of faculty that are going to have this expertise, and we're going to be able to build on some existing strengths. We're doing a lot of new stuff in infectious diseases, and we got money this last year to also add additional doctoral programs working in the infectious disease space coming out of the pandemic. So when we think about cutting-edge research in the state of Washington, we're really doing a great job. We're about $375 million a year in sponsored research coming through WSU. If you put us in the Midwest, we would be the top-ranked university in many, many states. We just happen to be on the West Coast with a lot of universities that do a huge amount of research. So it's easy to look and say, well, we seem to be smaller in research than others. But it turns out some of that is just simply location, size, and scale. If we compare our faculty productivity across WSU, so we take research and normalize it per research active faculty member, we are better than Texas A&M, Purdue, and UC Davis in terms of our individual productivity. We're just not as big, but we're, I like to say, more quality. We're going to continue to do great things, and you should be proud of this part of our mission because it's an important part of what Washington State University is and does. The last thing is we got this real neat opportunity that came up, and I think Chancellor Paul Petrie is here with our Everett campus around aviation-friendly biofuels. And that's going to be done work in the Tri-Cities, going to be work done up here, some work in Snohomish County. This is continuing to meet the needs of the state, but also put Washington up near the top nationally in the ability to do some of this research. So as we look at these projects, what you'll hear and you'll see more often than not is it'll be 2 campuses that are working on it, or 3, or all of them. And I think it wasn't that didn't happen in the past, but we're doing a better job now of making sure that these are system things and that we can use the fact that we have expertise across the state to solve these tough problems really to our advantage. Well, one of the other things I get to spend a lot of my time doing, and many of the other leaders in the room do, is making sure that we're building meaningful partnerships. We've had meaningful partnerships, university, for decades. But as we are on our 2nd year of a major comprehensive fundraising campaign for WSU, some of these partnerships are yielding big results. So this was a picture taking of when we were celebrating a $20 million commitment to a new engineering building on the WSU Pullman campus. $10 million from Ed and Beatrice Schweitzer, the founder of Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories, as well as another, it's $10 million from them, and then $10 million from the employee owners at Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories to make sure that they brought Schweitzer Hall forward. So one of the largest gifts that we've received since I've been here as president, and we just got $40 million on this for this building as well from the state of Washington. You put it with other donors and a $5 million commitment from the Boeing company, and you add it all up, we're about $80 million for a new engineering building. Groundbreaking is going to be this fall. Those of you, yes, that. I got my engineering degree at Virginia Tech in the 1980s. For those of you here who might have gotten your engineering degrees in the 1980s, I can guarantee you the facilities are the same. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Mahmoud was young when those engineering facilities were young. So one of the things that we have looked, and we've done a great job at WSU Pullman investing strongly in vet med, in agriculture, in those physical facilities. We need to continue to invest, but the engineering and physical sciences, we had just not put the resources into for a variety of reasons over multiple presidents. We're really now starting, and we hope to eventually do 5 new engineering buildings in that, the sort of engineering footprint of the Pullman campus. And that means dropping down some really old facilities that are not efficient, they're not student friendly, they're not research friendly, they've just been there for a while. You know, Dana Hall is old. That's about the best you can say about it. So those are the kinds of things that you're going to see us continue to do, and we're going to do it in the same style. Philanthropic support, state resources, and corporate all coming together that allow us to do things. And this is fundamentally different than what we did just a decade ago, where if you want to do something new on one of our campuses, what you were doing is elbowing people out of the way to try and get higher on the capital list. Folks, we cannot build the WSU that we want doing it in that way. Philanthropy and partnerships, along with strategic state support, are going to all be needed to build the WSU that's important for us. Well, this is another announcement that we just had this last week. Everybody has celebrated the fact that we now have a medical school. We just had our 3rd class of Coug MDs. You know, graduate, walk across that stage. It's our largest class, nearly 80. But one of the things that when we were working with the state and others to get the medical school, and we talked about making sure that Coug docs stayed in the state of Washington, there was one important statistic. One, it was not just where you went to medical school, it's where you did your residency program. If you combine doing medical school in the state plus a residency program in the state, you had about a 70% chance of retaining those new physicians to stay in that particular area. So now that we've got the MDs coming out, the next thing that we really focused on is residency programs and what we can do. Now, the traditional way to try and do residencies is you go to the feds, you try and get some money, you set it up, or you try and go wrestle some residency programs away from you know, University of Washington or somebody like that. There might be some fun in doing that, but what we decided to do was let's take a little bit different approach and let's work with our communities to see how we can set these up. So the first example of that is in Pullman. So starting July 1, if you go into Pullman Regional Hospital, you have an opportunity to see the first of 3 resident physicians there that are part of a residency program at a critical access hospital. Only one of 4 of those programs in the country. That was done through philanthropic support, as well as working with a local community to put a funding package together so that we could get it started. A lot of this is startup costs, and once you get it started up, then it can become self-sufficient. So that was our 2nd residency program. We had one other in Everett that started earlier than that. This is our 3rd. So in Spokane, Washington, for 30 years to 40 years, they've been thinking about we need to have a residency program for pediatrics on this side of the mountains. And nobody could ever sort of get it done. And I give a lot of credit to Daryl DeWald, our Executive Vice President for Health Sciences, shown here in that beautiful crimson jacket that I gave him. But anyway, that beautiful crimson jacket. And to the, to the left of him, I can't remember my right from my left, so hopefully that side. Anyway, is Jim Record, who's our interim dean of the College of Medicine. The 2 of them worked this hard for about 2 years. And what we had to do is pull together some funding from Premera Blue Cross, from Providence Healthcare Systems that we're working with together, from the Community Cancer Fund of Spokane, as well as individual donors. And we had to put together a package around $10 million to be able to initiate this particular program. We had some physicians in the audience that had practiced for 35 years in Spokane and never thought they would see the day. So this is, again, us leading and doing it differently than everybody else. We were recently in Washington, D.C. with some of our senators, and we had one of the senator offices afterwards, they said, we want to know how you did this, because we didn't think this was possible to do it this particular way. We're already talking about in Central Washington some other things that we want to do the same way. So as we set these up, we figured out how to do it. We figured out the financial package needed. Now we can go to another critical access hospital in Washington that has community support and wants to do it. And they say, what does it take? We can say, this is what it's going to take from the community. This is what it's going to take in patient load. This is what it's going to take in startup costs. And we actually have a model that we're operating and using that we can use and refer that to. So if you go 10 years in the future, I'd like us to have 500 residency slots through the state of Washington, initiated and led by Washington State University, the L.S. Floyd College of Medicine. So folks, we're doing great things on access to quality care. You know, presidents travel a lot, and a few years ago, pre-COVID, I had some of our faculty in the College of Veterinary Medicine, specifically in the Allen School for Global Health. And they said, Kirk, we're doing all this cool stuff in Kenya around infectious diseases. You need to come and see it. And you know, international trips take a long time to get somewhere. And so May of 2020, what could possibly have happened that you couldn't take an international trip? So we were ready to go and weren't able to go. And this effort originally was started by Guy Palmer, a Regents professor, the Creighton Chair, and a member of the National Academy of Medicine. So he's maybe one of our most preeminent WSU faculty. And he said, Kirk, you need to come over and start meeting folks and seeing what we're doing there. So anyway, I was able to go over in February. So this slide here, interestingly, these are all Washington State University employees. Just to give you some sense, this is just the support staff of what Washington State University is doing in Nairobi, Kenya. So this is about 17 to 18 full-time folks doing HR, doing payroll, doing acquisition, just the stuff you need to run about $25 million worth of research that's done each year in Nairobi, Kenya. We have 7 resident faculty that are members, faculty in the Allen School for Global Health that are resident in Nairobi. And So we talk about being a global university, and you go and you meet with these folks, and we have 20 PhD candidates there, interestingly, that also are sponsored by WSU, but our faculty are not able to co-advise these particular students because they're University of Nairobi students. So one of the things that we worked with our faculty senate on at 2 institutions, that's I need alcohol before I can really tell you how all that worked. But anyway, we are going to offer, we think this fall, we'll be in a position that will have the first dual PhD degree that students that are co-advised by WSU and University of Nairobi colleagues will get a PhD from both universities simultaneously. This is our first opportunity to really do something like this. We have great support for the University of Nairobi and WSU. Now, University of Nairobi, if you're not familiar with, about 40,000 students. They have a College of Agriculture, Veterinary Medicine. They look like a land-grant university. They have aspirations to be the leading university for East Africa, so sort of a big swath of about 8 or 9 countries. And they're doing really great stuff. It's a great partner for us to have. But the interesting thing is looking ahead, how do you take this? It's wonderful to have our folks there. We're doing all this grant activity. We're studying infectious disease propagation through East Africa. We also, interestingly, have this summer a group of 8 undergraduate students who are going to be there as a study abroad experience. So they'll be there for 8 weeks doing research, and they're not just in veterinary medicine or biology. We've got somebody in data analytics going there. We want to start doing that. And through the backpack journalism program, we had some of our Murrow students that also went over to Nairobi and spent a week there working through that particular program. And what we're starting to see is now that we have this focal point there, other programs, they've got support structure and support staff there. We're going to start seeing other majors and things like that work their way through. Now, the big ticket item, we're doing great stuff today, is one of the key things that most universities do with their African colleagues, and the reason this is really important is the idea is we get grant money, we're going to work on something, we're going to bring folks from country X to the United States, they're going to study here, and then when they graduate, we're going to send them back to country X. And if you say, does that build infrastructure there in the long term? The answer is not really. So the difference in what WSU is doing is our theory is let's build infrastructure there. So we're going to partner with somebody there. Those students don't have to come to the United States. Let's work with a partner where they can be educated, do their research and scholarly work there, working with our colleagues using technology. And guess what? That's going to build that infrastructure there in a very different way than our other colleagues are doing. So it's not just the cool work that we're doing, it's a different way of doing things. So we look at what we're doing in College of Medicine, we look at engineering buildings, we look at what we're doing in Nairobi. We're not following what anybody else is doing. We're picking out our own pathway to success, and we're continuing to do that. So the other thing that I want to spend a little time on is you can't get with any WSU group, and most of you can sit there and go, man, this is cool stuff. It's great, I'm hearing about it, Kirk, but how come more people aren't hearing about what's happening at WSU? Our Board of Regents and others have really asked the leadership team to focus on reestablishment of marketing Washington State University broadly, professionally, and more frequently. And essentially in 2008, at the Great Recession, and those of us who were around then, it's nothing great about it, but the Great Recession, we essentially shut down virtually all of the, or almost all of the marketing work WSU did promoting the institution as a whole. We sort of skated by for, almost 15 years of a little bit here and a little bit there. There was a big spike when we did a 125th anniversary, but it was 1 year. And then we went right back down to zero. So what we want to do is reestablish this. And one of the things that we're doing is we brought in a national marketing group that's interviewing lots of groups, and they're going to help us put together, here's what WSU needs to be doing to market ourselves better and tell our story. But we're not going to wait until we get some report from an external entity. Our own Marcom team is working on several things, and one, you may have seen it, is the Go Cougs means. We're doing some ad stuff, digital ads in Seattle Times and GeekWire. You all may have seen this, where you click on it, it talks about Cougar Gold cheese and things like that. There's a monthly theme to what we do, and this is one of the videos that was an early one, maybe in January, just to give you a sense of the types of things we're trying to do. Maybe in January,
Wine more
just to give you a
delicious?
sense of the types of things we're trying to do.
How do you make life better? Do you make food more nutritious and accessible? Do you give people tools to sleep better? Maybe you make water cleaner or wine more delicious? Do you make our world safer? Do you bring healthcare to more people, especially the most vulnerable among us? If you're Washington State University, the answer is
Yeah, we do that.
Maybe you make water cleaner or wine more delicious. Through research and programs, WSU does all of these things and more to make life better for the people of Washington and around the world. Better health, better sleep, better food. Go Cougs means a better life.
So if you just do an internet search, you can sort of see what some of the other ones are. But we want to make sure that we're just out there talking about the great stuff happening at WSU a lot more. And I think it's going to be fun over the next year or two as we're in the marketplace more, just talking about what our university is doing, the impact it makes to the state of Washington, the impact we're having on prospective students. And this is across all of our locations. So looking ahead, what are some things that we're really spending some focus on? One is certainly enrollment. When we're up this fall, it's going to feel good to everybody, but then quickly we're going to say, well, what's next? And we got to keep working on that. We got to keep telling our story about WSU a little bit better. One of the other frequent topics has been U.S. News and World Report. WSU as a whole institutionally dropped a whole bunch of spots this last year. Interestingly, we didn't do a lot of things differently. They added a lot more schools to it, And so we shifted, and a lot of our alumni have been upset and say, I don't really care much about U.S. News and World Report, but I also don't want to see us, dropping like a rock. And so we're working to make sure that, are we reporting our data accurately and appropriately? Are we marketing ourselves and doing the things that we would do anyway? What we don't want to do is spend a bunch of money to try and move ourselves up in a particular publication or poll. That's kind of a fool's errand. You can spend $1 million and you say, well, Kirk, would you have done that if the U.S. News and World Report ranking where it was? And the answer should be, we need to be doing what we need to promote our institution to students, to faculty, staff, to stakeholders. And if the two go simultaneously, that's great. But we want to make sure that we're focusing our dollars where we need to. So that's going to be another major effort. And then presidents, we love winning football teams and cranes. And one of the things that you're going to see on the Pullman campus and all of our campuses in general is we're going to start pretty much of a big construction boom coming up. We're doing groundbreaking for engineering building this fall. We're going to do groundbreaking for the indoor practice facility, Taylor Sports Complex this fall. We've got currently a USDA building going in as well on the Pullman campus. On our Vancouver campus, we have a new life sciences building that's going to be wrapping up here in the next few months. If you just kind of look out there, we're going to have this sense, I think, of growth, because you start seeing that construction. It's a hassle, it's a pain when traffic's diverted. But at the end of the day, I think you sit there and you look and say, my university is growing and they're doing really cool things, and I think that's going to be an important part of what's moving forward. So with that, I appreciate your attention, and got a lot of positive stuff for our institution. We had a really interesting year this year. We had some highs, we had some lows, but I'm looking forward already to the fall, and certainly would love to talk about anything that I've talked about or other things that you think are important. So thank you. Questions?
I have a question, and I have a gift for you, Doctor. I think leadership in society is critical, and one of the things you might not know about Dr. Schulz is that he's an Eagle Scout. Now, that's important for all of us kids that were in scouting, but then the other thing that's important, and I'm going to give you this gift, and here's what it is. Now, you got to read the message and then show the crowd.
It says, once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. And then it says,
oh, look at
I
that.
talked to the governor, we worked it out, we printed you up your own license.
Woo! Does this mean I don't have to pay my tabs every year? Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Other questions? All right. Oh.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you so much for your leadership. And it's been an amazing 7 years now, maybe?
Yeah, 7. Yeah.
And also, it is a very special day yesterday for you. It is President Schultz's 60th birthday. So we have a gift for you, Carissa. His team has also got cupcakes and cake in the back for everybody. And we would like to sing you happy birthday. So is everybody okay with that?
Set it down. Yeah.
All right.
You.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kirk. Happy birthday to
you. My wife did. Thank you. I would prefer nobody know when my birthday is, but so my wife did a kudo board, and which was a cool thing. If you've never done that, people can do memories. And so my youngest son's in Germany, and he called yesterday to say happy birthday. And it turns out one of my high school friends, somebody I knew who's majoring in engineering, he sent in this picture of me as an undergraduate student singing into an umbrella. There was no alcohol involved, trust me. It was the Baptist Student Union. But anyway, singing into an umbrella, and he goes, Dad, that girl in there is not Mom. It turns out, yeah, this was who I dated before Noel. So I'm hoping she doesn't see it. But anyway, so folks, Well, I'm going to be around. I'm going to be moving through here. Thank you to our CougsFirst leadership. It is stunning to sort of see the way this continues to take on. I remember some very early discussions with our CougsFirst folks about how this could grow and be so important to WSU. And it's neat to see a whole day's worth of events. It's great to see our business community come out. And for, I don't know about you all, but almost all of us now, when we're going to go buy something or do something, we look to see if there's a Coug-owned business that's doing it, and we support that. And not that people didn't do that 10 years ago, but this CougsFirst has made it really easy to do that. So thank you so much, and let's go have a great time. Thank you. Go Cougs.
All right, thank you. So we do have the show floor opening at 4 o'clock, so you have a few moments here to use the restroom, grab refreshments, and then we'll meet you all down on the second floor. Outside of the grand ballroom, we'll have a grand opening of the doors, and you can go explore all of our exhibitors for the 3 hours of our show. So thank you all